My whole goal was, how do I get my passive income to exceed my living expenses? That was really my only goal back in 2012. And now it's turned into, what kind of a wealth ratio can I create? If bought right in the right market cycle, you can make great cash flow from real estate. The way we do that, it's very, very simple, rinse and repeat model. We do multifamily value add as our main focus of asset class. And as an example for your listeners, a real case study, real time. I'm only going to talk about things that we've done. I always listen to podcasts and I always think, who are you? Why should I listen to you? What results have you created? This is a real case study for us as an example.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Get Diversified. I am your host today, Jacqueline Landry, and I have a very special guest with us, Dan Brisse. Brisse, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Excited to be here, Jacqueline.
Awesome. So Dan and I are partners in one of his apartment buildings that he owns, but I'm going to try to give him or do justice by an introduction here. So Dan you might know him from a world of professional snowboarding, where he forged a legacy as a true innovator and a fearless rider in the streets and backcountry. For 15 years, he was at the pinnacle of his sport, known for his powerful style and iconic video parts that pushed the boundaries of what was possible. So that's the real exciting part about Dan. But he also has another side that's also incredible, and it's about real estate. So Dan, why don't you fill us in a little bit about your position at Granite Towers Equity Group, and then we can just go from there.
Yeah. Like many of your listeners, I had big dreams as a kid. I grew up in central Minnesota and had this dream to be a professional snowboarder. And I would go to my parents and I told them I wanted to be a snowboarder. And, just real quick to the parents out there, the best gift my parents ever gave me was they believed it was possible. My dad, I still remember to this day saying, he'd said, go for it. And my mom was like, do what you love. And I can tell you right now, being 13 years old in central Minnesota with this snowboarding goal, had they said, yeah, that's not possible, get real, get ready for college, I don't really know where I'd be. I don't know if I would have chased my dream as clearly as I had. So just a quick sidebar to all the parents out there. You never could know how much desire your kid is going to have for a goal, for a dream. And so I just say support them and let them go learn the lessons, and maybe even their hard lessons, which I had some along the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, from ninth grade on, I made this decision that I want to be a snowboarder. So I spent my high school days snowboarding. Didn't really want to be in school. I got decent grades, but it wasn't something I wanted to be attending every day. When I was 18, I graduated from high school. I moved straight to Salt Lake City with a bunch of friends. I thought within a year I'd be a professional snowboarder. And my parents, again, they supported me, but they didn't give me any money. They didn't have the money to give me. So I worked odd jobs. I didn't have a car my first year. I was eating peanut butter and jelly for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I thought I'd be a pro snowboarder after the first year. And that wasn't the case. I realized I had a lot further to go than I thought. Year two comes around. I head back home to Minnesota and then back to Salt Lake City every year. And I think this is my year, eating peanut butter and jelly, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, working at Red Robin, and doesn't work out. Third year, I come out a little late and I have a major knee injury, and my season ended January 3rd. I dislocated my kneecap. I needed surgery, and the doctor said, you're going to have a 9-month recovery. So my season was over. And that's after year 3. And this was the point, you guys, where if I wasn't really clear on what I wanted and committed, I would have gave up. I would have quit. This is probably year 9 of effort from year 13. I'm right around early 20s. But the 4th year, I go back out. And my really good friend says, hey, you should go to Aspen, Colorado to compete in the Aspen Open. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. That's Aspen. I don't have the money to get there. How am I going to pay for the, entry fee, all that? And he's like, I'll pay for you. I'll bring you there. I'll pay for your fee. If you win, pay me back. If you don't win, all good. So we drive to Aspen. He pays my entry fee. There's like 230 kids at this thing. It's an open. Anyone can join. If you're not familiar with opens, like a US Open, anyone who's up and coming, it's your opportunity to get on a main stage. You get 2 runs. If you qualify top 10, you go to finals. And if not, you go home. I ended up finishing 6th on qualifier day. And then I came back the next day. Yeah. And I don't know what happened to those other guys, but that day on finals, I won. And my snowboarding career took off. And I ended up having this really amazing dream come true snowboarding career for almost 15 years. And it was exactly like I imagined as a little kid in Minnesota. I got to go to crazy parts of the world. I was on in the magazines. I was in movies. I was making good money. I even was in X Games 6 times. Kind of, I'd say the peak of my career. I ended up with 2 X Games gold medals and 2 X Games silver medals, and it was this dream come true until, it wasn't. And when I would say it wasn't, I got to know some of my hero friends, Jacqueline, who were really big, and they had a snowboarding career for a long time, and their careers wound down. And when they wound down, it was brutal. I saw some really nasty things. I saw them losing their homes. I saw them back working where they were before they took off at the grocery store, drug addiction, suicide, and it scared me. So I started reading every book I could get my hands on to figure out, hey, how can I use the money I'm making now to transition to another career where I have this much passion, this much freedom, and can really take care of what I've made as an athlete and make it grow. So that's where I started learning about real estate. And so I bought a duplex back in 2012. I bought a nineplex 2013. I bought a 24 unit in 2014. And I was just doing my own research. And luckily, I was buying at the time in the market where everything reset, which actually I think is kind of where we are right now, is a big reset
Mhm.
happening. But I got lucky. My timing was good. So I ended up doing pretty good with these deals. I started getting passive income, which changed my life. And this is something I learned later. I never heard of passive income till I was like 28 or 29. I
Yeah.
learned how to hedge inflation, how to use inflation to make me wealthy. And I learned how to use real estate to save on taxes. And those three things changed my life. So, and I can't tell you guys how average I am of a human being. Like, I wasn't extremely smart in school. I didn't have this huge gift of money behind me. It was literally just a dream and a lot of work and kind of some luck. That's how I got into real estate.
Yeah, but I probably need to stop you there for a minute, Dan. Not average, because not only did you bust your kneecap, but you came back and you're like, I'm not going to have it stop me. And then when you saw people around you when their career was on the downward, you said, "Ooh, I better do something." And the average person may not do what you did. And there's a lot of professional athletes that I've been encountered with in the last pretty much 2 years where it has ended in suicide. And to get out of that and say, what else can I be doing so that snowboarding doesn't define Dan is super critical to just your future and financial freedom and everything else that comes along with it. So I applaud you for kind of getting your head out of that and not letting snowboarding define you forever. And when that goes away, and doesn't have anything.
Yeah. I would agree with you. I think that's something that athletes struggle with, is the identity of who am I now? And to be able to latch on to something else, the next step, and get going is a superpower. And it really is, I think, what can drive somebody to continue on with excitement, because that's the whole goal, right? Of to live a life of passion, not just for the
Yeah.
first 10 years of your working career and then it's over. That'd be a tragedy.
So you bought some duplexes, you started getting bigger, 24 plex, and then now what?
Yeah. So, like I said, the part that changed everything for me was this idea of passive income. And for any of your listeners that are new to it or that haven't heard of it, my whole goal was, how do I get my passive income to exceed my living expenses? That was really my only goal back in 2012. And it's turned into, what kind of a wealth ratio can I create? Like, how many times higher can my passive income be than my living expenses? Similar game. I love cash flow. I love real estate because it creates cash flow. Doesn't always, sure. Challenging times can change that for sure. But in general, if done right, if bought right in the right market cycle, you can make great cash flow from real estate. And, the way we do that, it's very, very simple, rinse and repeat model. As we do multifamily value add is our main focus of asset class. And as an example for your listeners, a real case study, real time. I'm only going to talk about things that we've done. I always, listen to podcasts, and I always think, who are you? Why should I listen to you? What results have you created? So this is a real case study for us as an example. You do this on a rinse and repeat model. But we bought a property in Cleburne, Texas. It was an 88 unit property. We acquired it, let's just say right around 2019 is what it was, September, I believe, for 6.75 million, and we raised 2.1 million. And the way we created cash flow on that deal was we added value. And this is what we do on all of our multifamily deals. So on this deal, we relocated the office, which allowed us to free up a unit and get us cash flow on an entire unit every month. We put in exterior LED lighting, which just simply allowed us to have brighter lights on the property for less cost of expenses for electricity. We put in 48 backyards, which allowed residents to say, hey, I'd like a backyard. I got pets. I want to have an enclosed area. We leased those out for an extra $120 or $150 a month. And then we did interior unit upgrades. So we maybe, upgraded the flooring or the cabinetry or new appliances, new carpet, any of that stuff. And then lastly, we did also as a water conservation program where we came in and exchanged all the toilets and put aerators on all the faucets and just purely found a way to, use less water, which is great for the residents. Their bill goes down and it's good for the environment where you're not dumping, 10 gallons of flush down the toilet. So once you do that and you bring real value to these residents, they want to live there more because of all of the upgrades you've made. And you simply are charging higher rent because your demand goes up. So I love this business in the sense of bring value and be rewarded. And if you spend 500, 700,000, $1 million into the property, that's awesome on the entrepreneur or business owner's end to take that risk. And ideally you get rewarded for that investment. So that's how we did it on that first deal. And for a deal like that, with our investors that put in $100,000 on average, which is throughout the year, they received a 12% cash on cash return each year. So really round numbers, that's about $1,000 a month or 12,000 a year on $100,000 going in. And so that's the way you're creating passive income. And that's not taking into consideration the capital gains or the depreciation. That's purely just, hey, how can I put $100,000 to work to start receiving some residual passive income every month or every quarter to get a return on my money? And now, deals lately haven't been at a 12% cash on cash, but that is the goal of us as real estate investors, is to create cash flow or passive income for every investment we buy.
Yes. Now talk a little bit about, so I think there's this, so obviously you hold on to this property, you make the renovations as you gave the example to, or that you actually did, and then you exit, you sell it. So talk a little bit about how much the net operating income needs to increase in order to give an investor a X return. So
Yeah,
talk a
well,
little bit about there, because I think it's a little
yeah.
complicated for new investors. They think that they need to double rent, and there's
Hmm.
this misconception there.
Yeah, great question. What you're really talking about here, Jacqueline, that I think people need to hear is hedging inflation, which is really the second reason, or one of the main reasons I like to invest in things that are real. So, before I answer that question, the piece I would just have all your listeners to consider is that how much you're seeing inflation, or how much purchasing power the dollar is losing year over year. One quick story that I think is worth hearing is my grandma, who, died at 93. She had unbelievable work ethic. And she unfortunately had 5 kids under 12 when her husband ended up passing away. My mom has 5 siblings, 12 and under, and you got one mother who's working her tail off to help these kids survive. And she worked and saved as efficiently as any human being I've ever met in my life. And she worked until she was like 85, like beyond the years, because she had to, or at least that's how she felt. And, at 93 years old, she had like 95 grand or something close to that. And she had to go into assisted living, and it was like 7, 8, 9,000 a month. And it just ate away her savings account. And eventually she was needing help from, the government to survive. And so that's an example, you guys, of saving dollars in this environment with the Federal Reserve printing, the M2 money supply. We don't need to go into extreme detail on that, but with the amount of printing of dollars, you're not wanting to save dollars as your ultimate. I'm not saying don't have some savings account to keep you safe, but if your end goal is to save dollars on a fixed income, your living standard is likely getting tighter. And I think that's really the big challenge I'm seeing in America right now, is the folks that are saving dollars are on a fixed income versus people that own assets. And you're seeing a divide there. And I don't think that's going to get lighter.
Jacqueline and Melvin, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to listen to this episode of Get Diversified. Please make sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss out on future episodes. Finally, stop by our website and follow us on social media. Ciao for now. Make it a great day, and we'll see you next time. And remember, get diversified.